No Falcons game this weekend, so you get a little bit of a lighter load for our good buddy Aaron Freeman, who is the host of Locked On Falcons right here. And we appreciate you guys making that the first listen. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast, biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. It's available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcast. All right. This I thought was interesting. You know how I've talked about a little bit about the deals that Alex Anthopoulos has signed, and of all the big deals that he signed, the six of them to these younger players. It was one of those things where, if half of them went through to fruition, I would consider that a raging success. Um, I think that still holds true. But I saw a tweet from Michael David Smith yesterday. He writes for Pro Football, right? He's still at Pro Football Talk. Yeah, he's the managing editor of Pro Football Talk. And he tweeted out yesterday that Jared Goff is a better quarterback than Matthew Stafford right now. Younger, healthier, and cheaper. And the Lions will get a top 5 pick in the Rams in the 2023 draft. The Rams winning the Super Bowl is an all-time example of the results working out on a fundamentally bad trade. Um, it's interesting that you take that stance. And I saw a couple of Falcons fans, yesterday talking about how uh, they um, gladly would have traded, you know, made a trade like that to get a Super Bowl and deal with it. And Braves fans would have said the same thing prior to 2021. They would have sold their soul and their fortunes in there to get a championship and not worry about it. And it's funny how you always grade trades in hindsight and you grade deals in hindsight, and that's always what you do. That's part of it. I mean, it's really one of those things where we all do the same thing. We look at it after we have some more information, and we look at, oh, okay, yeah, um, there is a certain amount of uh, hindsight being 2020 that we do with all this stuff. But again, it's as the Braves go through this thing, and as you start to see the next couple of years play out, we'll start to weigh out whether the Acuna deal was good, the Albies deal was good, the Austin Riley deal was good. You know, in the big picture, you'll say as the market continues to move forward around the deals that they signed, they'll never be terrible based off of the value of the price that they got them at. Because again, what third basemen are making. So the fact that they got that Austin Riley for 21 million a year. Um, the way it really goes bad is if he just totally tanks or gets injured to the point where he can't play anymore. This is a certain um, amount of you know as the market moves forward, you look at these guys and you go, okay, as long as they're performing at a certain level, what you're paying for the value of the contract is worth it. And I think that's fair, but again, when you choose to lock these guys up where they are because they're cheap, there's a tendency to hold on to uh, a guy longer than you should. You're afraid to cut bait. When guys are over expensive, you're not afraid to get out of the deal real quickly because, you all of a sudden just need to move on, right? But when guys are a little less expensive, you hang on to them a little bit longer. And that's the danger with some of these deals that the Braves have put together is that you may hang on to them a little bit longer than you thought you wanted to. But again, we'll see. I just thought it was interesting in grading that trade a year later and already saying that the Lions had won the trade. And you could also argue that you'll have to wait and see what they get for that pick, right? To really value whether they won the trade or not, because the Cleveland Browns got a lot of top draft picks in trades, and guess what? They still haven't figured it out, right? Like they still haven't really figured it all out. Whether they've now again, you look what the Dolphins did, what they turned around all their trades into. Jalen Waddle and Tua and everything else. They look like they're getting closer, but still, it's a little bit early to grade whether their deals went the right way. They feel like did. They look like they did, but it might be a little bit early to figure out 100% whether they did. All right, let's pivot here from trades to the Hawks last night, who fell majorly flat in a game against the New York Knicks. It was bad. It was ugly all around. Trey Young was 9 for 20. He was 0 for 4 from three. The team shot 37% from the field, 16% from deep. And they got waxed last night by the Knicks in New York. Now, they were shorthanded. Deontay Murray left the game after 4 minutes of playing due to an ankle sprain. He didn't return. They were without John Collins and DeAndre Hunter. They were already playing shorthanded. And Nate McMillan had to go deep into his rotation. I think he played 11 guys, 12 guys last night for at least 6 minutes. Even Frank Kaminsky got in there for crying out loud. So it was not a good night for the Atlanta Hawks. Bogey Bogdanovich, who came out the other night draining threes all over the place. Yeah, he was 0 for 10 last night. 3 for 16 from the field and 0 for 10 on 3 pointers. Yeah, that's not it's a tough one there, Bogey. Not your night. You'll have to bounce back. So tough all around. They take a loss. They get a night off. They have to go face the Brooklyn Nets next. And again, uh, how will you respond? You're sort of waiting for Trey to have that game like he had against the Sacramento Kings, where he's just coming out making everything and puts the team on his back for a long stretch, and they end up playing a great game and winning. And not seeing that yet. I'm probably focusing on Trey too much. I fully admit that. Like I genuinely admit that I'm probably putting too much on Trey and focusing on him way too much because I think that in general we do that with stars. But I'm not going to be saddled. I'm not going to sit well with the way he handled that whole little exchange and not 100% being accountable for what. What he had done or what had gone on. Again, all like I said, all he had to say in general was, "Hey, I take accountability for my part in this whole thing, and leave it at that." And he never did that. So we sit here again with the Hawks now, a game above 500 and sort of trending in the wrong direction. I mean, it's by no means is any of this damning for the rest of the season. It's one of these stretches you may look back on um, when you've lost 5 of the last 7 against bad teams, the Rockets, the Thunder, the Knicks. Heat were below 500 when you played them. This is where you start to realize that uh, these wins matter. When you get to the end of the season, you're struggling for positioning and seeding, or even a case like last year, just to get into the play-in tournament. Uh, yeah, these are the stretches you wish you had played a little bit better. So we'll see. And again, it's not exactly like we have any real clarity on where anybody is in the standings right now. I mean, the Hawks currently sit in the 5 seed. They'll play the Brooklyn Nets a half game behind them. They could jump to the 4 seed, but you start to see the line is starting to get clear at the top of the Eastern Conference with Boston, Milwaukee, and Cleveland, all playing better than winning 64% of their games, and then you get the 53% and below where the teams that are hovering just around 500 everywhere else in the East. So um, that line is starting to come to fruition as you get through a quarter of the season. All right. Very interesting column I saw on ESPN.com that just reminded me of something. And we'll discuss it next. First, a word from our friends at Built Bar. If you haven't tried Built Bar Puffs, they are amazing. You're probably depriving yourself of one of life's greatest joys. They got a new flavor. It's cookie dough chunk, light, chewy texture, real chunks of cookie dough, and they're covered in 100% real chocolate. Best part about these things is they're so healthy for you. Just 160 calories, 15 grams of protein in them. Delicious, tasty, satisfies all those cravings of that sweet tooth that you have. Go to built.com, order a box, share it with the family, put it in your office, leave some in your car. Great for a snack on the go in between meals or something late at night if you got a sweet tooth and you want something sweet before you decide to go to sleep, but don't want all the guilt of it and don't want it to sit in your stomach. Well, that's where Built Bar Puffs cookie dough chunk come in. Again, go to built.com. Use the promo code locked on 15 to get 15% off your first order. Again, built.com and the promo code locked on 15.